Good morning, viewers and listeners. This is Mervin Hanley. Today is Friday, March 7th, and today we are back with more commentary. But before I get into the commentary today, I want to remind you of two things. A reminder to subscribe to the YouTube's channel, and also if you'd like to be added to our WhatsApp broadcast list, and it doesn't matter where you are from or where in the world you're at, you'll never miss any news, information, commentary, or whatever we do on here. So send us a WhatsApp at 1-869-667-7443. That's 1-869-667-7443, and you'll be added to our WhatsApp broadcast list. We have over 17,000 of you from across the Caribbean and in the diaspora who are a part of our WhatsApp broadcast dissemination, our WhatsApp broadcast list. Now, this morning I want to talk about a topic that has brought about much chatter. Some of you would have seen a letter from Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, to Prime Minister Gaston Brown about a home, maybe you want to call it a mansion, or some may want to call it a palace, that was approved for the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And this approval, just to be clear, it is not a personal, at least for me, it's not personal, it's nothing personal against the governor, but it is deeply nauseating for what has been approved for the office of the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. Now, just so we understand how the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is governed, from their own website, let me go to the powers and responsibilities. The governing bodies of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank are the Monetary Council and the Board of Directors. The Monetary Council is the highest decision-making authority. It is comprised of one minister appointed by each government of the participating countries, and the function of the council is to provide directives and guidelines on matters of monetary and credit policy to the bank. Now, the board of directors is comprised of 10 directors, the governor and deputy governor, and one director appointed by each government of the 8 participating countries. The board of directors is responsible for policy and the general administration of the bank, while the governor, the chief executive, is responsible for the day-to-day management and operations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now that you've heard that, let me get into the matter at hand. A palace built on the backs of the people. The people, you, across the Caribbean, you are in charge, really, the taxpayers of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And it's this palace, as you can see on the screen, a shameful betrayal of Caribbean taxpayers. Now, there are moments in history when leaders make decisions so tone-deaf, so utterly disconnected from the struggles of the people they serve, that it leaves us in stunned disbelief. And I say leaders because I just explained to you who runs the bank, really, the Monetary Council, along with the board of directors, which includes the governor and the deputy governor, and others. But this $22 million governor's palace, as labeled by Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is one of those moments where you're just left in stunned belief and ask yourself, who could be so tone deaf? For years, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the ECCU, through its Monetary Council, engaged in discussions about this grand project, a multi-million-dollar palace for the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. Not a hospital, not a school, not a project aimed at alleviating the crushing poverty so many in our region face. No, a luxurious estate for one man, for an office holder, the governor, whoever it is now or later, funded by the very taxpayers who are barely making ends meet across the Caribbean. Now, another thing, it is almost impossible to believe that Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, a veteran leader with decades in government, is just now expressing shock at this project. Just a couple weeks ago, I think sometime in February, is when he brought it to the attention, according to him, to the Honorable Prime Minister Gaston Brown, that he was so shocked and dismayed over this. A $22 million undertaking, Mr. Prime Minister Gonsalves, does not simply materialize overnight. It takes years of planning, layers of approvals, and multiple sign-offs. So how can a project of this magnitude, which would have had needed government's input, including the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, be such a surprise to the Honorable Prime Minister? But you know what? Let's set that aside for a moment. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the issue here is not just about what Gonzalez knew or didn't know. The real issue is the fundamental betrayal of the Caribbean people. A gross misuse of the people's money. Caribbean taxpayers did not vote for this. They were not consulted, and yet the hard-earned money was quietly allocated to a project that serves no meaningful purpose for them. None whatsoever. Where was this urgency? Because all this happened at a time during COVID. You understand what I'm telling you? These plans and discussions took place during COVID. So where was the urgency when businesses were closing their doors during the COVID-19 pandemic? Where was this level of commitment when single mothers were struggling, and they are still struggling to feed their children? Where was this rapid mobilization of funds when people were, and they still are, crying out for help with housing, healthcare, and education? Now, for years, and it breaks my heart, because for years we have watched as our region's leaders, some of them, called for financial prudence. We have watched that. We have watched them say, for sacrifice of country. We have watched them and heard them. They told us to tighten your belts, or we have to tighten the belts. We have heard them say that resources are limited and that we must prioritize. And yet, in the middle of economic hardship, in the middle of a time when people are desperate for solutions, over $22 million has been set aside for a palace, a monument to excess and misplaced priorities. And that's just the beginning. Buildings of this scale, and leave that on the screen so people can see what we're talking about here. Buildings of this scale require significant upkeep. This means that year after year, the Caribbean people will continue to pay millions to maintain this unnecessary project while their own struggles go unaddressed. This is not leadership. This is not leadership. This is betrayal. It is unconscionable that the very people who claim to serve us, who stand on platforms and promise to uplift the Caribbean, would approach such an obscene use of funds. I want to say to you today, the ECCU Monetary Council, they comprise of members of government or representatives from Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as the British territories of Anguilla and Montserrat. You guys could have, or whoever at that time on the council, because they rotate, you guys could have chosen to invest in the people, especially during COVID. My goodness gracious. You could have been addressing the social and economic issues of our people. Instead, you signed off on a palace. I mean, come on. And no one should justify that the governor or any governor of any bank deserves this. The governor is a public servant, really. He's not a king. And when I say governor, again, it is not personal against the current governor. Because any governor, when he leaves tomorrow or whenever, another governor will replace him, and they will be in that palace if it's still made for that. The governor is not a king. It's not his money. This is not the leaders of the Caribbean money. It's not their money. This is the people's money. Money that should have been used to benefit the people. This moment, this sad moment in our history, demands answers. How did this project get approved in the first place? Were there cost overruns? Were there conflicts of interest? How was this decision allowed to move forward while so many of our people are suffering or were suffering? Again, I go back. This was during COVID, and I want you guys to understand that. Now, I have faith that the current chair of the ECCU, I think it's Prime Minister Gaston Brown of Antigua and Barbuda, and I believe that he will eventually, very soon, perhaps as early as Saturday, on his show, address this matter directly. Because over the years, he has built a reputation for speaking frankly and openly to the people. And I find him to be a man of great integrity. But transparency must be more than just words. The people of the Caribbean deserve to know the full truth, and they deserve to see action taken to correct this travesty. I don't know what the action will be, but action must be taken to correct this travesty. This is about more than just one building. This is about a pattern of governance that continues to ignore the cries of the people. Every day, Caribbean families struggle to put food on their table, to send their children to school, to provide them with lunch, to access basic health care. And every day, people are forced to make impossible choices just to survive. People are forced to do things they don't want to do just to survive. And yet, while they suffer, their leaders or their representatives sign off on extravagant projects that offer them nothing in return. And you can't tell me, you can't pass this down and say this was approved by the board of directors. You can't tell me no member of government was involved in this, because you had to know, you had to see, you had to ask a question. What is this? Even if you're not present at the time, this could not have gone on for years. That is why, with all due respect to Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, I think it's complete BS what he's saying, that he did not know. After all these years, it's a disgrace. And it's a slap in the face to every hard-working Caribbean citizen. And I don't know what's going to happen, because the building, the palace, as you look at it, it appears to me it's almost done. And even the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, he alluded to that, because he's now saying that probably St. Kitts and Nevis should probably take it over in whatever way and make it into the governor's house, the real governor, meaning the Governor General of St. Kitts and Nevis, or make it into some sort of tourism accommodation. But I do not think, with everything that is going on right now, that any governor should step foot in that $22 million project and more. And it's going to cost more. It's going to cost more over time, because year after year, millions of dollars in maintenance. Who's going to maintain that building? Do you know the cost to maintain that building? Listen, these people need to acknowledge their mistake. They need to take responsibility. And we just need to move in a new direction as far as this project. And if they fail to do so, then people all across the Caribbean, all of you who are listening to me today, all of you who are part of the ECCU, St. Kitts and Nevis, Anguilla, Montserrat, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Dominica, you cannot stand by and you cannot sit by and be quiet about this. You must demand answers from your people in your respective territories. The people of the Caribbean, you deserve better. You can't have leaders treating you like this all the time. There must come a time when we put a stop to this. There must come a time when we say to people whom we elect or in high places, enough is enough. You may be cool and everything, but we had enough of you. There must come a time when you look into the mirror and you choose yourself over these politicians and over these people in high places. There must come a time when you put you and your children first. There must come a time when you put you and your loved ones first. There must come a time when you put you and your future first. And this palace, located on St. Kitts, which has nothing to do with the current St. Kitts and Nevis government, but it happens to be physically in St. Kitts, that palace is not your future. I am Mervin Hanley, and I'll be back with you on Monday, God's willing, for a similar presentation. Have yourselves a great weekend. Sons have been serving the people of St. Martin for over 40 years, and the food and service get better and better. From early morning, customers flock to the bakery for their favorite sandwiches, cakes, pastries, you name it. First thing at mornings and last thing at afternoons, folks rush to Sons for simply the best. There are two locations, Coal Bay and on the Pondville. In Coal Bay, the opening hours are Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sundays, 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Opening hours on the Pondville, Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also cater for weddings, parties, special events, whatever the occasion. It's Sons. Our staff, we are always happy to serve you. Call us today, the Coal Bay location, 721-544-2462. That's 721-544-2462. Or in Phillipsburg, 721-543-1059. That's 721-543-1059. It's Carl & Sons Bakery. We are here to serve you. Nevis, satisfy your sweet tooth at Feaser's, the cozy spot in Charlestown, known for its mouth-watering ice cream and dal parade. We are open Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come in and sample our patties, sandwiches, air-fried wings with fries, hot dogs, rotis, and now our famous smoothies, in all flavors of course. And don't forget to try the famous bus-up shut and saltfish. It's Feaser's, located at the entrance to the Cotton Jewelry Mall in Charlestown, Nevis. They're also available by phone, so place your order by calling 1-869-665-2458. Don't ask about the rest, just try the best.